General Shenandoah, Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaking to the veto.
Gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I hope the body just heard what the House Democrat position is on this bill, which is that House Democrats appear not to trust career-trained lawmen to guard our children in their schools. Mr. Speaker, I know the same thing about this bill that I knew about the last bill and the governor's veto, which is this, that the anti-gun agenda to which they are deferring, to which the governor has deferred, is more important than the safety of our children. How can you look at this any other way? As the gentleman from Prince William just said, these same career lawmen, and mind you, these are people, and I hope that the gentleman from Manassas chimes in here in a minute. These are people who spent their entire career chasing bad guys, fighting with them hand to hand, worrying about use of force, being trained year in, year out, more and more each year, year in, year out. In the Commonwealth, they get to retire early. Most of y'all know this. They don't work until they're 70. Most law enforcement officers do 20 years, and they retire, they get their retirement, and they look for another job, something else to do, because they're young men and women when they retire. After Sandy Hook, this idea took hold as a possible way, something we've been kicking around for a few years, a possible way to address not only our need to protect our children in school, but in sort of a symbiotic relationship, these law enforcement officers who need work in their retirement, it's a perfect fit for them. It's a way that our schools, who are already stressed by their limited budgets, can have a much more cost-effective way of protecting the children in their schools just as well or better than having a school resource officer there. You know, a school resource officer may be fresh out of the academy. That may be their first thing that they're plugged into right after the academy is this, you know, they funnel them into the schools. It's not like, you get kind of both ends of the spectrum in my experience. You get folks at the beginning of their career and the end of their career working as school resource officers in many respects. So are we safer with some rookie out of the academy who we have to pay their full-time salary, their retirement, their benefits? Is that a better fit for the safety of our children and the budgets of our local school systems? Or is it better to have a retired officer who's seasoned, who knows all the things, knows about all the things that the governor appears to be concerned about use of force, about how to handle a firearm? And by the way, as a gentleman mentioned, they still have to get trained every year. You know, don't they know how to do this? Don't they know how to protect people? Don't we trust them to do that? Of course we do. Of course, again, but logic is out the window because school safety, children's safety, not as important as this anti-gun agenda. And as long as we're talking about logic, the gentlewoman said the governor read the bill. Did he read the one that he signed into law that many people on the other side of the aisle voted for that says judges can carry a gun into a school without training, without somebody checking on them, without a law enforcement agency overseeing anything about them? A judge, just because they have a robe that they put on every day, the governor thinks that person, in signing that bill about judges, that the judge is perfectly qualified to carry a gun in a school. So if that judge has a son or daughter playing in a basketball game, the judge can wear a gun into the school just because he's a judge. No concern about school safety there. If the judge comes to talk to a class, he can wear a gun into the school legally, according to the bill the governor signed. But a lawman who's been in law enforcement for 20 years can't do that. 30 years can't do that. Makes no sense. The only thing that makes sense is what I said, which is that the anti-gun agenda is more important than our children's safety in this regard. And that's a shame, and that's sad. You know, I think the governor disregarded logic and reason and accuracy. And as far as accuracy goes, you'll note that one of his reasons was that oh, somebody could be from another state, and they could come in from another state where they have much different training requirements, and they could get a job like this, and it would be really unsafe if they were a police officer in another state. I think that's illogical to start with, but I think the governor should know that the reference in the bill to 9.1-101 refers to law enforcement officers, which is defined as people who enforce the laws of the Commonwealth in the Commonwealth. So when you're writing these things, not only is it important to be logical and reasoned, but it's important to be accurate. And Mr. Speaker, there are lots of folks on the other side of the aisle who voted for this, voted for the judge bill, voted to let judges carry firearms into our schools without any training, without a permit, without any oversight whatsoever. And they're about to vote against letting seasoned career police officers protect our kids. I'd like to write that mail. Sort of swirling around in my head already, what that mail piece looks like. Do the right thing.
The gentleman